All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our operator meeting today. My name is Hannah Hickam, and I will be your host. We'll be taking questions at the end, so make sure to chat those in as they come up, and I will read them all off at the end. Jumping right in, we've got flaring and venting, and Julie Murphy will be presenting.
Thank you, Hannah. I appreciate the opportunity. It's great to see a lot of familiar voices or familiar names. I don't see too many familiar faces right now. I wanted to check in on a couple of things, actually. First, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that Miss Jane Stanzik, her last day is tomorrow, and she's been an incredible addition to this team. She's had incredible oversight and leadership, and her institutional knowledge will be incredibly missed, as will her congenial demeanor and her approach to life with rows and columns. It's just an enormous loss to our organization, and we could not be happier in wishing her well as she launches into retirement with grandbabies. It's hard to question why she made that choice. So Miss Jane, you go with all of our love and support, and thank you so much for your service to the state, and wanted to make sure everybody on the call knows about that transition also within COGCC. With that, I'm going to jump over to the flaring and venting topic, and this is a lot more of a reminder and an acknowledgement that we're coming up on a very significant deadline next month. The 900 series rules that the commissioners adopted last November, so 13 months ago, change what is permissible under the rules as it relates to flaring in particular and venting, effective in January, in that the intent is to eliminate the routine flaring of gas. And so if you as an operator and as part of your operations are currently burning separator gas, I hope that you're one of the operators that has submitted a plan to us for review. Otherwise, I hope you've taken steps to change your operations. I think it's critically important that we understand this deadline and understand what it means. So I just wanted to flag that that's a pretty significant change and operational practices. And we look forward to kind of working through the case-by-case determinations about what is actually occurring on site. I know we've heard from a number of operators, but I don't know if we've heard from everybody. So just a big picture flag to, check the 900 series again and understand how it interrelates with your operations if you're burning separator gas. And with that, I unfortunately need to drop off, but again, appreciate your engagement on this issue. I think connecting with our engineering team or Mike Leonard is probably a great place to start if you have questions. So thanks for the time and participation.
Thank you, Julie. If anyone has any questions, please put those in the chat box and we'll have the engineering or compliance groups answer those at the end. And next up, we have the switch to electronic Form 8 levy payments, and presenting will be Chris Eisinger. It would help if I unmuted him. There you go, Chris.
Unmute. Okay, can you hear me all? Good. Yeah. So thank you, Hannah. My name is Chris Eisinger, and I recently am taking over a role as the Information and Applied Technology Manager, part of Jane Stanzik's job, and I'm happy to be here. Today I was asked to make the announcement about our switch to an electronic Form 8. This is the conservation levy payment form. And Hannah, if you can launch my slides.
Sorry, I unmuted you when I meant to unmute myself, or I muted you when I meant to unmute myself. There you are. Okay,
great. So yeah, this is part of the, we're switching over our Form 8, the conservation levy form. And this process, this transition is, I'm kind of stepping in sort of the end of it. Kudos to Jane Stanzik and Terry Ekanau for their efforts and involvement in this. Terry is going to be generally your point of contact for questions about the Form 8 and our switch to the electronic form. The next slide, Hannah. So this is one of the last paper forms. I think this form, it's interesting that it doesn't have a space for an email address, so that gives you an indication of how old the paper form is. And so it's a nice transition we're making finally to an electronic form. And then the other important component of this is we're introducing a payment system, electronic payment system, so people will be able to will pay electronically. This process, this switch will allow for a more automated process and allow us to minimize errors and improve the efficiency for both payers and the staff. Important parts of this presentation are highlighted in yellow, and what you probably need to know at this point is that the testing is going to start in right now, and that this new electronic form should be available in mid to late January, early February. Next slide. So the general guidelines for the Form 8 levy payment have remained the same. Nothing is really being changed. I'm not going to read through all this, but this is here for your information. The levy is calculated. Basically, it's the total value sold minus any exemptions, and then multiplied times the assessed rate. There is a 3% interest on late filings and adjustments. All of these calculations are going to be made automatically in the new electronic form, so that is one of the benefits of having an electronic system. Next slide. For this new form, you will be paying the fourth quarter levy of 2021, which is due on March 1st. And those are sales from October, November, December. So that will be the first payment that will be utilizing the electronic system. Next slide. This is just kind of a preview of what the form is going to look like. It's fairly straightforward and simple. There's you sort of step through the process sequentially, entering your payer and contact information, then filing information. And if you go to the next slide, Hannah. Again, this everything is geared towards an automated approach. So in this case, the levy amount will be populated depending on what quarter and year you select. And then you will enter your operator information, the sales volumes, and any exemptions, and it will calculate the total levy amount. Next slide. Once you've done that, you will then move into an electronic payment system. This is pretty standard in terms of there'll be a shopping cart to add your Form 8 to it, and you can add multiple Form 8s, and then you will pay when you're finished with that. Currently, we're only accepting electronic checks. I think that's the plan going forward. And we'll have more information about that as we move closer to actually rolling this out. Next slide. Yeah, like I just said, the key thing is that there'll be only electronic checks. You'll pay at the time you submit the Form 8. You will receive a receipt. And if you should have any errors in your first filing, you'll be able to go in and submit a corrected one. Any overpayments are going to be processed manually by the COGCC staff, and then we will mail paper refund checks. Next slide. So all Form 8s and associated levy payments for the fourth quarter, like I just said, that are due March 1st must be filed using this new system. So we are not going to accept any paper forms or paper checks for this next quarter payment due March 1st. Again, mid to late January, early February, we should have the system in place, and so you can start making your payments then. We are going to provide a training for the electronic Form 8 at the next operator meeting, so we'll actually step through how to fill out the form. So please plan to attend that if this is relevant to you. Next slide. And then probably the most important thing is, if you have a first purchase or another third party that does submit your Form 8s, please let them know about the upcoming training and that we're making this change, the electronic payment system and the electronic Form 8. And I think that's it, Hannah. Next slide. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, you can ask us now. And again, Terry is going to be your key contact, but I am happy to try to answer questions or provide help as needed.
Hey, Chris, we're going to take questions at the end just to keep moving along.
Okay, great. Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks. Everybody can just chat their questions in as they come to them, and we will read them down the line at the end. Thanks. And next up, we have the cumulative area plan guidance published, and Sabrina Trask will be presenting.
Thanks, Hannah. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Great. I don't have any slides. It's just really a very short announcement. Rule 314 comprehensive area plans. We do now have our operator guidance published. Hannah, if you could drive on our website from our homepage. And click on regulation. And then operator guidance. The one at the very top there, operator guidance rule 314 comprehensive area plans. This is now available for operators to use. The CAP guidance doesn't really tell you how to do a CAP, like how to design a CAP. The guidance tells you how to submit your CAP, basically. So there's Hannah, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a section on sort of the CAP process, which is laid out there based on the rules. And then if you scroll further down, there's a section that describes what to include in the application. So the content and the preferred layout, since the application will actually be submitted into the e-filing system, not web forms. So that guidance is out. It's available for operators who are working on CAPs. And I also wanted to just let operators know that we are starting to now push some permitting guidance documents out. So the Form 2 APD guidance, we're going to have a slew of those coming out and being posted on the Form 2 section of our webpage, hopefully prior to the end of the year. So be on the lookout for those. And then one last shout out just for Jane Stanzik. Jane, we love you. We're excited for you, but it really sucks for us that you're leaving us. So just wanted to throw that out there. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you, Sabrina. Next up, we have the Goody Type 3 Aquifer Wells on map, and Greg Geronimo will be presenting his own screen.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Oh, you know what? Yes, I can hear you, but I should probably make it so that you can present your screen. There you go.
Sounds like a fair deal. Bear with me. Sorry about that. Screen 2. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Greg Geronimo. I'm the environmental manager here at COGCC. Today, I'll be just updating you briefly about the groundwater under the direct influence of surface water and Type 3 aquifer water wells and public water system protections. Specifically, I'm here to announce that we have now a new and updated map layer for these PWS systems. Thanks very much to Chris Eisinger and his team, and former COGCC employee who came back to help us out, Jim Milne, and greatly appreciate that. See if I can walk through this slideshow. So just some general information. You all know how to get to our maps. You all use them every day. So there's the link. The map layers are guidance only, and all PWS locations and buffer zones must be confirmed and verified through your permitting process. So field measurements at the end of the day will carry the day. The actual public water system intake locations are deliberately obscured on our maps because there is that's an effort to protect the location of those critical resources. However, we do provide the contact information on our maps so that everyone can reach out to the public water system administrator and find out exactly where the well is, and then determine the exact buffer zones in their planning process. These map layers are visible on our maps at 1 to 250,000 scale and less. So if you're zoomed at the whole state, you won't see them, but as you start to move into a proposed or actual location, then you can see them. And these map layers are now available as of 9:05 this morning. So please refresh your browser and you should be able to see the new layers. Again, the public water system contact information is made available as a courtesy from CDPHE. If you find that the number is no longer in service or the information is incorrect, please go ahead and reach out to the Source Water Protection Program at Water Quality Control Division and let them know, and then work with them to get the correct contact information. All the definitions for groundwater under the direct influence, type 3 aquifer, those are all in 411B 1A through D, and then the buffer zones are described in 411B 2. So how it's set up on our map, these are all found under the water resources section on our map legend. Go down and turn on the public water system protection. This is typically turned on as soon as you zoom in, but the rule 411B is not turned on until you click it on. So please click that on, and then these new and generalized buffer zones will show up. So I believe we've got a bright yellow, hopefully internal zone, maybe greenish intermediate zone, and I think blue. I'm colorblind. I know I've mentioned that before, but anyway, those are the colors, or those might be the colors of those zones. So that's the way they show up. Again, these are generalized locations so as to obscure the actual locations of the PWS wells. You will have to do a field determination to determine where the buffer zones start and end. When you hover over the internal zone, the bright yellow zone, you will get contact information for the PWS. So this is the South Adams County Water and Sanitation District. The administrative contact is here, their email address, and their phone number. This is actually a earlier version. We no longer have the district operator on there, and it just says to contact the administrative contact to find out the exact location of the PWS. This tool is intended to tell you when you are getting close to a PWS and when those PWS rules might apply to your proposed location or existing location. On the intermediate and external buffer zones, the map tip just says to see the proximal internal buffer zone for the PWS contact information. And that's because in some of these convoluted polygons, the intermediate and external layers overlap one another. And so it would get really confusing to try and say which one you need to contact. So what you do is just hover over the internal zone that is closest to your location and follow up with them. And then you could find it. If there's two in the same sort of area, then you could reach out to both of them and find out who you need, who's the actual PWS operator that's closest to you. And Hannah, I believe that is all that I have, and I am prepared to take questions at the end of this, so I will stop sharing.
Great, thank you, Greg. Next
Thank
up,
you.
we have safety.
I did miss one item.
Go ahead.
And that is all thanks and all credit for all things go to Jane Stanzik. We'll miss you, Jane.
Thanks, Greg. Next up will be safety issues, and Mike Leonard will be presenting. Oh, I have not made you a person. Just one moment, please. Sorry about that, Mike. Always forget the best. Co-host. There you go.
Thanks, Hannah. It's amazing you can make me a person. Some people would not agree with that. Thanks, everybody. Mike Leonard, my Compliance Unit Manager. I wanted to talk to you real shortly today about some safety issues or some incidents that that we have seen recently probably could have been avoided, but we'll just kind of talk through that. We had fire a couple weeks ago and a fire last week at tank batteries where maintenance operations were being taken place. One, the lease operator tried to tighten the nipple on a separator, and the nipple came out because of corrosion. Obviously, the treater emptied and then ignited another. They were doing some tank maintenance, and there were heavy vapors within the containment berms. The third incident was it was a non-incident. I wanted to talk about one of our field inspectors and supervisors went out to a location where flowback was occurring, and one of the flowback water tank thief hatches had been inadvertently left open, and there were some welders that were about to start hot work very, very close, and we're talking well within the 75-foot area. We shut that operation down and kind of went through a safety briefing on that. I guess where I'm going with all this on those parts are, as we come out, and we've seen this before, and I think anybody that's been around for any length of time has seen this before, as we start to come out of the downturns, as we start to cycle back up, we don't always have the most experienced people out there. Maybe not everybody's doing situational awareness, not really understanding what's going on, but let's step back, take a little time, look and see what's going on so that we don't have an incident. We're very lucky on the first two incidents, there weren't any injuries, or even the third. That's not what we want to see. So please step back, talk to your people in the field, talk to your contractors, make sure everybody's up and running, gas monitors, gas metering. Let's just take it to that next step so we don't have an incident. The third thing I did want to mention is accident reporting. The rule is 6 hours upon, or 6 hours verbal notice after the incident, within 6 hours of the incident. Now you can notify anybody at COGCC. It doesn't have to be me. I would appreciate it if it's a major incident, you get a hold of me or get a hold of your local inspection supervisor, compliance supervisor. And the Form 22, the initial Form 22 is due within 3 days. We've had a couple incidents here recently that it was well beyond the 3-day limit and with no verbal notice. We really need these to come in to see what's going on and to see if we have any trends. Other than that, I don't have anything right now. I'll take questions at the end. And for somebody that's been around almost as long as Jane, good luck, Jane. I'm a bit jealous.
Thanks, Mike. Your time will come soon enough, I'm sure. Yes, let's all stay safe. And next up, we have the Bradenhead test deadlines. I think we had Dave Andrews on the list, but Diana Byrne is going to present. Thanks. And hopefully I have made her a host. Let's just double check that. Okay, Diana, you should be able to unmute yourself and you should also be able to share. Oh, good.
All righty, thanks. Hey everyone, Diana Byrne. So just a quick reminder that the requirement for Bradenhead testing went into effect a year ago now, last November, and running some queries, and it looks like we're still missing a few. But I also want to remind that there's an so 419 is what set it forth. DJ basin operators were already doing this based on order 1-232, so it went statewide last year. But that not only is a requirement, but also the expectation that the wells are equipped for that testing so that it's safe and convenient to do that. So effectively valved at the surface so that that test can happen. And then going to point out that there is a guidance. So from our website regulation, and then you end up at operator guidance. It's here. You can, it's in the higher end of the thing, or you could start typing the word Bradenhead and it will start to knock things down, and you can find it there too. And the bigger one is within eForms. So every operator within eForms can go to their, this is tools, and I don't have it because I don't have any MITs to be done, but each operator has a tools that's specific to them. And so within there, you should see the ability to see missing Bradenhead tests. So that means we do not have a reported Bradenhead test for the calendar year for 2021. So, and also this is handy for operators. There should also be a tool for any overdue MITs. So you can stay in front of it. But sorry, I can't show you that. But I will show you that the other thing you can do within is to make sure that for some reason they're not just hanging out in draft. So you can put for your operator status, you can either do all or draft. You can move this date forward so that it's only 2021, but for this example, I didn't change the date. But you could see if something was hanging out in draft. So you thought it was submitted, it came up on your list, but it's actually hanging out in draft. So these come straight across to COGCC. Once it's submitted, it gets an approved stamp on it. There's no vetting, there's no review. It's just a report of that Bradenhead test. So the other reminder is if you're utilizing the bulk upload tool, that the expectation is that those are done by the 15th of the following month. So all of the November tests would be uploaded by tomorrow, December 15th, etc. Those upload tests are not going to show up in eForm because they're completely separate, but you can check individually the API number, and the upload ones show up as a full or a light. And then in this case, there were some actual Form 17 submitted also. Heads up, Garfield is seemingly way behind. We show that there are 4,386 missing Bradenhead tests. That's not cleaned up. There may be plugged wells that are in there with the Form 6 in process, but I doubt that it's a huge percentage of those. So if there's questions, please let us know, but there's these tools to try and facilitate that compliance with the requirements for Bradenhead testing. And that's it, except I too want to echo, way to go, Jane. She's just been an amazing contribution to this agency, and it's appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you, Diana. And with that, the presentation portion is ended and we go into the Q&A portion. So the first question is, can we make sure all approved forms are noticed to the operator when approved? I think Form 5 or 5A do not noticed. A signature block of approval on all forms would be nice also, so that we know who approved it.
So Hannah, I'll take that one. This is Sabrina, Planning and Permitting Manager. There's a little bit of nuance with the different forms that we process. Some of the forms are actually requests by operators for approval to do something, and those forms get the director's stamp on it, like a 2A or a Form 2. Those forms get approved. There are other forms that operators submit to report information. So like a Form 5 or a Form 5A, that is a report of the well construction after the fact. It's not something that needs to be approved. So the forms that are requesting approval to do an operation, those will get the formal stamp, the director's signature on it, and we'll send out the notification automatically through web forms. The forms that are being submitted to report something don't need to be approved. Those forms are passed. We pass our task in web forms. So those forms won't have the director's signature on it. We can certainly consider adding an email, an automated email notification for when we pass those forms like the 5 and 5A. But for now, we've got so many other projects going on in web forms with developing the Form 8 outside of web forms and updating other forms within web forms. We've kind of got a tight schedule we're trying to meet to make those ongoing updates and revisions to the web forms that we have now. So it's a good idea. We'll add it to our wish list for web forms improvements, but it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So thanks for that question.
Thank you, Sabrina. The next question is the electronic Form 8 submitted through web forms, or is it a separate electronic filing system?
I think that might be best answered by Chris.
Yes, sorry about that. So yeah, it is a separate system that'll be accessible through web forms via link. The login credentials should remain the same for the for the Form 8. We're still finalizing the system, so it's subject to change. But to answer the question, yes, it is a separate new e-form system. And in part, we're doing that because of the electronic payment system as well, to be able to integrate it more effectively.
Thank you, Chris. And somebody asked if I could show the Form 8 contact slide again. So here is that. I'll leave it up for a few minutes. Folks can keep typing your questions in and we will answer them. Next question is, this is about the electronic payment. Is ACH allowed?
I'm curious if Jarrett is on this call because he might be able to answer that. I do know, like I said, it's an electronic check format. Whether that is actually ACH or not, I do not know that answer.
Jarrett is here and I have made him a co-host so he can unmute himself and we can just put him right on the spot.
Hi, thanks for the question. And I assume that is yes, but I'm not 100% sure. So we'll have to get back with you on that.
And I would just say, you know, not people who are not familiar with the term electronic check, it's really just your routing and account number that you submit electronically. It's not a special type of check. It's just processing your checking account credentials digitally. So
I would also just add to everyone, I don't think Jarrett Ellis maybe has presented much to this group. So Jarrett is our finance manager at COGCC, and thanks for being here and jumping on the spot, Jarrett.
Thank you, Greg. Greg's correct. This is my first time in the operator meeting. I was just joining in today as part of the Form 8 and electronic payment system discussion. But as Chris has alluded to, this is still in development. So more to come.
Great, thanks, Jarrett. Thanks, everyone else. Next question is, I do a lot of ACHs, but no electronic checks. There may be a learning curve for the first payment. I think that's probably okay.
Yeah, we'll try to work with everybody to make it as smooth and easy as possible.
All right, we have another question.
And I'll just add to that, you know, we do have, Terry Akinoe has reached out to a few operators to actually test the system with the third quarter payment. So we will be doing some actual operator submission testing before we go live to everybody on March 1st. So hopefully we'll have the bugs worked out and be able to have some really clear process in place by the time most operators are being asked to use this new tool.
Great, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Chris. And Dan says that ACH electronic checks are the same thing, so that's nice. Next question is it possible for a third party to receive a separate login to electronically submit Form 8 on behalf of the operator?
I believe the answer is yes, we can set that up, but I'll have to circle back with our developer on that to find out if that.
Well, that's how, hi, everybody, this is Jane. And that's just the Form 1A designated agent. You send in a form, you're designated as an agent for an operator, and you receive credentials to access our electronic form system.
Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
All right, just give me a moment. Lost Zoom there for a minute. All right, next question is, this was a private question, and Greg, it's for you. Can you add some color around how a field visit helps confirm the GUI buffers?
Yeah, so ultimately it's going to be the distances are listed from the PWS well out to the buffer, either 1,000, 1,500, or 2,640 feet. So you know, once you determine the location of the PWS well, you know, lat long, and then measuring out from there, maybe field verification was maybe not the right word, but an actual verification, an actual measurement is what you'll need to do. If there is a question about the location of the well, if it is not mapped accurately, you know, then that's where a field verification may be helpful to determine that you're actually, you know, if there's a cluster of wells and you want to know which one is the actual PWS well, then it may be necessary. So may or may not be actual field, but certainly likely will be a surveyed measurement if you're close.
Thank you, Greg. And that person said thank you as well. Double thank you. I don't see any more questions right now, but we'll give folks a little bit longer. I'm just going to share the next operator meeting is going to be Tuesday, January 11th, hopefully. And you just never know when it gets changed, that's all. And there's my email there at the bottom. If you want to be added to the operator email list, I have 3 or 4 folks every single time. So I'm going to keep saying it and make sure you get the last name right. Otherwise it won't get to me. All right, we have another question. In accounting, we don't have a COGCC login, whereas operations likely does. Will accounting team be given separate login information for the Form 8 filing and payment?
That's up to your internal organization. Some operators share their logins across a number of different folks. If that works for your organization, that's fine. If you want another set of credentials, you can have those. You need to talk to the CUA, and I can't remember what CUA stands for, but the person in your organization who can provide access, who has the login. So that's going to be a thing for everyone to figure out. And we recognize that that's the case, that people that have been sending in Form 8s haven't used any electronic forms, or that's possible. So that's an internal question for each operator.
Great, thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
And I'll give just a few more minutes in case there are any other questions, but hurry up and quickly type them in. If there's not one in another minute or two, I'm gonna go ahead and close this guy out. All right, guys, I'm gonna, they will also need to file a Form 1A if they wish to add someone. Okay, so that's good information. So Shelley, your question, so if you guys did want your accounting people to have a separate account from the other people in your agency, then you would, I guess, need to fill out this Form 1A if you wish to add someone. All right, and with that, I'm going to call it. If there's any other questions, you can just email them to me and we'll make sure to put them in the question document. And the next operator meeting is Tuesday, January 11th. And you can email me to be on the operator email list. Otherwise, thank you all so much for attending and hope you have a great day. Take care.